Hello, everyone. I'm Tina Lombard, and you're watching Seattle Pinoy Television. We're at North Seattle Community College right now, and we're here at the High School Students Career Exposure Day. And behind me, we have a lot of students getting a lot of information on choosing a career path. I just sat down and watched several individuals get up and tell us about their high school, their college, and their early careers. So anyway, stay tuned. We'd like to tell you more about this day, and we thank you for joining us. Great. Let me tell you what we're doing here today. We're here at Student Career Day in North Seattle Community College. Now, this event is sponsored by several different organizations. It is hosted by Faacpa, which is the Filipino American Association of Certified Public Accountants, in its education fund, and in partnership with several different organizations. AFEW, which is the Association of Filipino Engineers of Washington. Also the FLOW, which is the Filipino Lawyer of Washington, which represents Filipino lawyers. Now, the purpose of today is to bring education to those young folks exiting high school and going into college. It's a way to prepare these people into their professions and try to give them some support and education on how to achieve their career goals. We saw earlier today people in the field of law, of medicine, engineering, nursing, communications, business. That was the morning session. This afternoon, we're going to be hearing from people who actually are further along in their careers. We have retired Senator Claudia Kaufman, and we also have Gideon Epistola, who will be presenting today. He is the president of the FCC PNW. It is a very, very well-attended event. They have breakfast and lunch they're serving. There's a lot of people in the room, a lot of energy in the room, and we're getting a lot of information, not only the students, but those who have students in college and people who are preparing for students to enter the educational process.
My name is Galinato. I am the Vice President of the Faacpa Educational Fund. We would like to welcome you today, and we are thankful that you decided to spend your Saturday with us. Especially, I think it's going to be a nice day today. I noted that we have 40 high school students joining us from about 15 high schools in the greater Seattle area. And I think there's someone from Mount Rainier High School from way down south. Thank you for coming. Let me give a quick overview of what we're going to have today. First, we're going to have a brief remarks later on from the president of the Faacpa Educational Fund. And for the morning session, we have a group of young professionals from different areas in education, law, healthcare, business, accounting, and auditing, and engineering and technology. These professionals were in your shoes not too long ago. They were in high school, trying to figure out what courses of study they would like to pursue in the future and what careers they would like to take on. So I think it will be interesting to hear from them because their experiences are still fresh, and I think they will be most relevant to what you're experiencing right now. Later in the morning, we will also hear from a college student at the University of Washington, and she will talk about what college life is about, something to look forward to in the near future for you. In the afternoon, we will have experts and other guests who will talk about other areas of interest, especially for high school students such as yourselves. And in between, before lunch, we will have a Q&A. So you can ask questions posed to our young professionals. And as time permits, we can do a little breakout session wherein young professionals will be at different tables, so you can approach them and ask specifically their questions about the professions that they are in. Okay? And so I think we're going to begin by having our president of the Faacpa Educational Fund, Bert, Golla, to give some opening remarks. Bert?
On behalf of the FAACPA and FAACPA Educational Fund, in partnership with different organizations and individuals. I would like to welcome our high school students who are here today with our promise that your day will not be a waste. I welcome the young professionals who express their desire to be of help to our students by sharing their educational and professional experience. The professionals, speakers, and everyone who invested their valuable time today, Saturday, with a common purpose in mind to further give illumination to the students' journey to college. Why go to college? Clearly, you will gain information and skills that you will use for the rest of your life. That is enough reason to pursue education beyond high school. Getting a college education is an investment that will pay back for a lifetime. People with college education have better job opportunities, earn more money, and develop skills that can never be taken away. General Colin Powell, the first African American to hold the position as Secretary of State, said, "There are no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure." While playing with my 2.5 years old granddaughter, Jordana, the daughter of Carl over there, she wanted me to run with her around the table in our living room. She was sharing with me something she learned from her little kicker soccer school. She was preparing to run around our table many times, and like a sprinter, she paused and said, "Dolo, grandfather, get set, ready, go." And she ran, and I followed her around the table many times, and I stopped. It was tiring for the old man and took a rest. She was still energetic and still wanted to go. She paused again for another round. Get set, ready, go. I think she's learning and practicing one of the basic ingredients to success: preparation. In our life, we cannot reverse the process. We cannot say go, ready, and get set, or ignore a process. If you do that, the probability of failure is more likely, or you float without direction. Education is expensive, and we cannot afford to waste our resources and time because we are not prepared. The four important words, get set, means conditioning your body and mind to meet your challenge, and that is to enter college. Ready means equipping yourself with information, tools, plans, and resources to use and apply when you get into college. And go is simply implementing your plan of actions with vigor and self-confidence. Self-confidence is achieved when you prepare adequately. The sessions today are videotaped. There are gems that you can pick from today's session, and we will attempt to make the CDs available for some graduating students in the future. Lastly, let me express my thanks and appreciation to Association of Filipino Engineers of Washington, Filipino Lawyers of Washington, Filipino American Association of CPAs, Filipino Chamber of Commerce of the Pacific Northwest, Mukulsud Casino, our major funder, and individual educators, nurses, and other partners for joining us in bringing this program to our high school students. Thank you, and have a fruitful and fun day.
Thank you, Bert. So we have our full lineup of the young professionals up here in front. To the far right, we have Elmo Akasid. He is an engineer specializing in electrical, electronic, and communications engineering. He is a senior electrical engineer from Tetra Tech. Then we have next Romel de las Alas, an attorney in his own law firm, law office of Romel de las Alas. Next, we have Sherilyn Gonzalez, an immigration attorney at Gonzalez and Gonzalez Immigration Law Offices. Maybe she can talk about the other Gonzalez's in the firm later. Then we have Bert Golla. He is a physicist, a chemical engineer, and also has an MBA. He is a business development manager at Big Trucks. It's a very high-tech company that produces technical materials for a lot of special equipment. Then we have Dana Michelle Francisco, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. She also has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. She works at registered nurse, University of Washington Medical Center. Francis? Oh no, let's get somebody. This is Elmo Acacio, is an electrical. Oh no, I'm sorry. Chris De Leon. He's an educator, Master of Arts in Education, Dean of Students. I just told him this morning he looks too young to be a dean of students at Cairo Middle School. And then we have Francis Santos, a CPA. He works at PricewaterhouseCoopers as state and local tax associate. I invite these young professionals and ask them to talk about their experiences in high school when they started thinking about what courses that they would like to take in college and what careers they were aspiring to at that time. And so they will be talking pretty much about themselves. So that makes it easier for me. I don't have to say a lot in introducing them. So our first speaker this morning is Chris De Leon.
Everybody awake? I love what he said at the end. Do something to make something awesome. And being a dean of students in education, that's what we do. Every day we make sure kids know what their dreams are. We help kids see through their dreams. And I know in high school, it's one of those tough times like, what do you want to do? And education was my thing. I didn't want it to be my thing, but it just kind of came to me because I love to be inspired. I love to see kids smile. I love to high five and fist bump 600 kids that I meet every single day. That's my job every day. I stand in front of the school and they get off the bus and say, "What's up? How you doing?" Blah, blah, blah. You know, I have a conversation with 600 kids. That's my role. How many people can say when you got home and you have a dinner with your family, guess what I did at the office today, or guess what you did today? I said, you know what? I high five 600 kids today. And I talked about dreams all day. That's what I do every single day. I talk about dreams, and we talk about dreams every day. What do you want to do? Don't know if that's going to be what their life is going to actually become, but it's something that I think every kid needs to know. And that's why I want to talk today about education, how important it is that we have really influential teachers. I think everyone here has one person in their life, one adult in their life that said, "You're amazing. You can do something amazing one day." You don't have a magic crystal ball that they're looking through something and go, "Oh, I'm a psychic. I can tell you to do something amazing." But we all need someone to do something amazing. Raise your hand if you had someone to tell you that you could do something amazing. Everyone raise your hand to say that you are worthwhile to be, you are made to be, or you are a special individual that's made to be on this earth. I think, and I saw most of you guys' hand up. So in education, I think in the news and the media we get kind of lost in the test scores and failing schools and all this and that and stuff like that. But I really want you to talk about the purpose of education, and it's people, and it's helping people. And you don't have to be a teacher to be a teacher. My dad was an amazing teacher. He's not a teacher, or a technical teacher in the classroom. He was a teacher. And the reason I said earlier that I didn't want to get an education because no one that I knew wanted to get an education. I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. I'm going to have my own business. I'm going to have all these cars. I'm going to have all these houses. And I kept on gravitating towards. I want to work with people. I want to work with kids. It's funny, I was one of those kids in the 90s who would build forts and pretend that my G.I. Joes were attacking each other, stuff like that. I had all this imagination. And I was like, I want to just keep dreaming and stuff like that. So I found education and working with kids. You're actually going to talk about G.I. Joes every day, even with 8th graders that I work with right now. So when you guys are looking at your career paths and you're in high school right now, you want to, and you're thinking about if I, want to go this field or this field. I want you to think about this, because your career is going to be a long time. People usually are in their career for 30 plus years. I'm about to turn 31, so that's basically my entire life to do one thing. And think about one thing that you want to do, one thing, or think about a week during your career. If I were to ask you 30 years from now, tell me about your week. So my week is this. Every day I get to talk to students of how everything is going. I get to ask how the younger brother is doing, how their schoolwork is doing, and some kids are like, it's too hard. I can't do this. I get to motivate them. I get to say, yes, you can. You need to try harder. We can do this. And at the end of the week, I get to look back and see how many kids was I able to just, give a little push or give some bit of inspiration. I get to do that for the rest of my life. I get to inspire people. And it's an amazing thing. So when you, like I said, I kind of remember going in circles, but when you look at your career, what sort of impact and purpose do you want on your world and your life? Okay? So being a teacher, you definitely have that opportunity. Now, teaching's not for everybody. I'll be honest. It definitely takes a certain personality. But I want everyone here to think about the most inspiring teacher that you have, whether they're in the classroom or they're in your family or from the community. They pushed you to do something that at first you maybe didn't want to do. I don't think anybody here wants to do calculus, right? I don't think anybody wants to do algebra. Like, wake up and like, I'm going to do 5x plus b equals this. No, but you do it for who? For your grade? Sometimes you don't want your parents to scream at you. But what if you have someone that genuinely cares for you and says, you know what, you can do this. You'll do it for them. When I first got to teaching, I taught choir. And I had the choir where they're like, haha, he's not going to make it because there's 70 kids in this class. We don't have any other electives, so they're just thrown in that class. So I get in there, kids are just storming in, crazy, and they're jumping off the walls, acting all crazy. And because of my love for music, and because I knew that they all could sing, they eventually loved to sing. And I had 8th grade boys who thought they were tough. They were singing classical music, and it was inspiring. And they asked, why you never listen to classical music, you listen to hip-hop like everybody else. Well, all of a sudden you like 300-year-old music. Well, because Mr. D likes it. I'm Mr. D, by the way. Mr. D told us how cool it is. They bought into a relationship. And that's what education is. It's a relationship between you and people. And that's what so when you're looking at the different career paths today, think about what kind of impact you want to have on other people. What kind of impact you want to have in your community. And definitely education is one of those avenues where you really, truly can make a difference. Because you know what, at our school, there are 600 kids. And a lot of them don't believe in themselves. They don't have anybody to say, you're amazing. And when I asked that question, I was actually surprised. There's quite a few of you that didn't raise your hand. Either you're super tired or like, I don't want him to look at me. I'll do this. But, it kind of reminds me of the students in my school. There's a lot of kids that don't have that adult in their life to say, you know what, you're great, you're amazing, and you can do this. And I think myself, I'm sure everyone on this panel too had that one person in their life to say, you know what, you can do this. For me, it was my piano teacher and my father and my family to make me feel special. There's a lot of kids out there who just feel like they're just a regular, nothing special kid. So a teacher can really inspire you. So in terms of college, of how to become an education, you have to jump through a lot of hoops, just like in every other program. Take your basic classes, and then the fun part is when you do your student teaching, and you get to look at whether you want to be elementary or middle school or high school, and that's where you get to see like what sort of impact you think you want to make, or where you feel most comfortable. And for me, it was middle school. I know middle school. I don't think anyone here would love middle school. 6th, 7th, 8th grade. You're awkward. I think one person likes middle school. Everyone else like, I had braces, and my pants too short, and my girlfriend was 3 feet taller than me. They actually are. It's pretty funny. Girls are so much taller than the boys in 7th, 7th grade. It's awkward, so I also get a laugh. every day. Not laugh at them, laugh with them. Maybe a little bit of both. But middle school, it's a time where, so basically I'm the dean of students, which means I'm in charge of the staff and students. So, and I felt that educational leadership was my thing because I want teachers to also be reminded of this every day. Because just like everything else, every day you kind of get stuck in the rut, and you're like, why am I doing this same thing, day in, day out? But every day, I as much as I try to inspire my students, I inspire the teachers. And I show videos like this. I show videos that make them cry. They're like, oh my gosh, that's why I'm in education. And they go and have an amazing day teaching. It's pretty cool. So middle school was my thing because middle school is such an awkward time of their life that they don't really know what they want. They say they know what they want, but they really don't. I've worked with some high school seniors, and don't take this the wrong way, high school seniors, but they're like, I know what I want. I don't like that. I don't like that. I kind of like that, but I definitely don't like that. And they walk away and they keep texting and crash into the walls because they're not looking what they're texting. But middle schoolers, they're really eager for some new things. I mean, I got 8th grade kids that, and I work in a pretty rough neighborhood in Federal Way. I got 8th grade kids who've never heard classical music sing Mozart. How many of you know who Mozart is? 3/4 of you. All right. Well, the next session will be me teaching you Mozart. But I could taught them some old, dead white people music, and they loved it. And they loved it. The music was powerful, and so it was exciting to see them, awkward, but they get inspired, and so it's one of those things where, because my personality and my enthusiasm for education, they dug it, and so I felt like middle school was my thing. So my eventual goal is to be a principal, and I think I'll be it in a couple of years, and that's going to be our mission. Every kid is special. Every kid is an individual. Everybody in this room has that special gift. That's not the same as the person next to them, not even close. But then they give back to the community, and that's what education to me is about. So, any questions? It's like, can we get to the next person, please? Questions later. Okay.
Before I go on to funding, I will talk about that, but I just want to give a little background about myself, because I always find it interesting to find out how people got to a certain place, what their path was. So when I was introduced, I am from a law firm. It's called Gonzalez, and Gonzalez. Lots of Gonzalez's. One is my father. He has been an immigration attorney for over 30 years. The other Gonzalez is my older brother, and he graduated law school in 2005. I graduated law school in 2007. But we also have 12 other attorneys who work for us. It's expanded rapidly. But I think what might be helpful is there are some where you might say as a prototypical lawyer, they were probably born to be a lawyer like Ramel. I mean, look at how I came today in my weekend here. But I think maybe it's helpful because when I was younger, I wanted to be a lot of different things. I actually was pre-med in college. And even to this day, I feel like my skills might have been more suited towards healthcare or physical therapy. I went to college on a tennis scholarship, so sports have always been a big part of my life. And I had, I'm not going to call stereotypical parents, but my mom kind of said, lawyer, doctor, pick one. And I wasn't the best at sciences, and I thought, law could be, I saw my dad who really enjoys what he does. So I thought, okay, I'll go to law school. So again, I wasn't, from a young age where I said, I want to be a lawyer, absolutely. But I think whatever skills, whatever strengths you have can be applied to law. And also, if you don't find, because I'm an immigration attorney now, I've been doing it since 2012, but I started out, I worked for a big law firm, then I went in-house for a hospital, so I thought I kind of had that medicine, law combination of the worlds, but I actually hated that job. But now I like what I do, so My advice to you, if you want to go into law, there's a lot of unhappy lawyers. Don't get discouraged by that. But there are a lot of people who really dislike practicing law. Find an area that you really enjoy. And I actually really enjoy immigration. I'm raw Filipino, I think, but my mom immigrated from the Philippines. She grew up in Manila, and my dad's parents are from the Philippines, so it almost feels like my job comes full circle. What I do is we represent a lot of family and removal defense, so people in deportation proceedings, or people if they're a foreign national. I don't like the term alien, but if they're a foreign national, they marry a U.S. citizen, or we try to keep families together. So I really like that aspect about my job. And my dad is at the age where he could retire, but he actually considers his job as retirement. He loves what he does, and he tells me all the time what a privilege it is that we get to do what we do and help people the way that we do and use our strengths the way that we do. And like Merle said, it's not always fun. There's a lot of responsibility. There are a lot of ethical concerns you have to be mindful of, and it gets really tough sometimes. But it is. When you help your clients get a satisfactory result or help their families, it's an awesome feeling, and you are using your skills for the good. Still, I mean, I enjoy what I do. Yeah, maybe would I be happier as a physical therapist or a tennis teacher? Possibly. But, you know, I do like what I do, and I encourage you just to, if you're unhappy, whether it be in college, if you're not having a good time, go somewhere where you just enjoy yourself. Your quality of life will be better, and the output of work will be higher quality. In terms of funding, I don't know tons about it, but I know that there are a lot of scholarships available. So don't feel like if you don't know how you're going to afford law school or college, there are many, many ways. There are a lot of scholarships, there are a lot of grants. Mimi Castillo, she was also mentioning her son is a recent graduate of college, so she was also mentioning different things. So if you have certain grade point averages, or if you're the first in your family to go to college, there are a lot of opportunities. So I hope you don't feel discouraged or feel limited on going after certain opportunities. Anything else you want me to talk about?
That is probably the most down-to-earth, sincere presentation of the law. Next to my dry, Nancy Gold presentation. But I do strongly, actually, we all strongly encourage people to pursue what their dreams are. You know, quite frankly, it wasn't too long ago, I was actually pretty much in those chairs too. I was wearing, well, back then we didn't have tight jeans, we had baggy jeans. And boy bands, and, basically I was wearing a baseball cap, and I knew what I wanted to do. I was strongly set. But, like I said, if there's a teacher that believes in you, seek in the confidence of that individual. Because, quite frankly, when I was at UW Washington, at UW, I remember the one thing that somebody told me, oh, you're not going to make it. You can't do this, you can't do that. If anybody ever says you can't do something, take that as a strength to prove them wrong. Because nobody can tell you what you cannot do. Well, of course, the judge can say that. But in the sense of your ambition is your own. Your dreams and desires are your own. And as long as you're doing good, and as long as you don't harm anyone, and actually are helping other people, there's nothing wrong with that, whatever career field you choose. So I'd like to end on a high note rather than all the negativity that I have to talk about in the field of law. But the law is an empowering thing. The law can make society better. The law ensures that we have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness in this country. And I'm very proud to actually say that, when I serve someone, and when I do so, it is to the best of my ability, and it is with the sincere desire to see that that person can pursue the best they can for the given circumstances that they ended up. So thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to speak.
one more thing. So we are part of the Filipino Lawyers of Washington. We have our annual banquet next Friday at the Filipino Community Center. And it's open to everyone. You can buy tickets. It's www.filipinolawyers.org. But it's a wonderful organization, and you'd be able to meet more of the Filipino attorneys. I'm sure my colleagues would be happy to talk to you if you are interested in law. And I want to do one more plug. Sorry. The whole thing, I agree. If there's someone who believes in you, that's amazing to have that. But also, even if people are down, you believe in yourself. Build on the minor victories each day, and that gives you confidence too. So even if you don't have someone believing in you, I have a lot of self-doubt still, a lot of insecurities. You just have to keep trying your best. That's the most important thing.
Maybe you can just write those down and save them for later, okay? All right, thanks again, Romel and Jerry Lynn. Next, we have Dana Francisco, a nurse at the University of Washington.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank you all and the FAA-CPA for having me this morning. My name is Dana Francisco, as you just heard, and today I have the honor of speaking with you about the career of nursing. Everyone has his or her own story, so I'd like to tell you mine and how I came into nursing. There are a lot of misconceptions out there about nursing, but it is my hope that by telling you my story, I can present nursing in a more realistic way and maybe even inspire someone in this room to try it out. As is common with many Filipino-American families, I had a pretty disciplined childhood. My upbringing was very future-oriented. So ever since I was a young kid, college was always part of the plan. My mom and dad did such a good job of drilling it in my mind that there was never really any other option as far as I was concerned. In some ways, it could be interpreted as a form of brainwashing, but I'm thankful for it because it brought me to where I am today, and it gave me a foundation for my future. At the same time, while success and hard work were explicit points of emphasis growing up, I was also taught in a more subtle way the importance of helping people. I credit the quiet influence and example of my dad, who is the type of person that will do anything for anyone and not ask for anything in return. So I wanted to be the same way when I grew up. I was born and raised in the Seattle area and actually went to high school just a few blocks away from here at Bishop Blanchette High School. It was a really good school that prepared me well. I always thought I was going to be a doctor, so the classes I took revolved around the sciences. I took some AP classes, and that prepped me and gave me the right tools for college. So I graduated high school in 2004, and after that began my undergraduate studies at University of Washington. Go Huskies, big football games today. It was at UW that I began to find myself and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. It's true what they say that you won't always know what you want to do, and it may take time, years even, to figure out what your passions are and so forth. I started college still with the plan of going to medical school, but I did begin to question if that was for me, and I questioned what exactly it was that I wanted to do. What's nice at UW is that for freshmen, they have what's called freshman interest groups, or FIGs for short. So instead of registering for individual classes, which can be very overwhelming because there are hundreds upon hundreds of courses you can sign up for, but FIGs allowed you to register for a cluster of classes based on your interests. So for me personally, I've always been interested in people and personal interactions, so my FIG included psychology and sociology courses. Then on top of that, we had weekly sessions with our fellow FIG members. So that was a good way to make friends, for one thing. But it also allowed us to bounce ideas off of each other. At some of the weekly sessions, speakers from different majors talked to us, much like at this event. And I remember one day the nursing major was discussed. I was intrigued initially, but kind of just shrugged it off because I also kept hearing about how hard it was to get into nursing school, especially at UW, which is the #1 nursing school in the country. So it kind of just became an afterthought. I spent the rest of my freshman year taking random electives from astronomy to history to creative writing. I think that was important to do because, as they say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. At 18 or 19 years old, it's difficult to know what you want to do for the rest of your life. So college is the perfect time to take opportunities and try different things and hopefully figure it out along the way. And that's what I did. When I started my sophomore year, I once and for all concluded that pre-med was not what I wanted to do. That conclusion was inspired by a conversation I had one night with one of my cousins who was trying to get into nursing school but was thinking of giving up because it was too hard. Somehow that sparked something inside of me, and I wish I could say there was a long thought process that led me to this decision, but believe it or not, I woke up the next day with an epiphany, I guess, and thought, I want to be a nurse. I realized that it was not through medicine that I wanted to help people. It was through nursing, and I was up for the challenge. So as soon as that happened, I went onto the School of Nursing website to see what the prerequisites were, what the requirements were, and from there I switched around my schedule so that I could immediately start on those prereqs. I also began volunteering at the UW Medical Center and then at Seattle Children's Hospital, and I never looked back. Typically, the nursing major takes a total of 4 intensive years. It's 2 years of prereqs, then you have to apply to get into a nursing school, and then nursing school itself takes another 2 years. The 2 years of prereqs were a very challenging 2 years. Simply put, the classes were hard. But because I knew it was what I wanted to do, it was also easy in a sense. When you find your passion, schoolwork tends to become a little more fun, at least in my experience it was. It was during my senior year of college that I applied for several nursing schools in the area, but then I also decided that I wanted to continue with a psychology degree because I enjoyed the few psychology classes that I had taken prior. I figured it might be useful in nursing, and it has proven to be. So I graduated with a psychology degree in 2008, got into nursing school at Seattle Pacific University, and began the program 3 months after graduation. To be honest, nursing school might have been the hardest 2 years of my life thus far. I thought the prereqs were hard, but this was on another level. School involved early mornings and really long days, and half the week was spent in the classroom, the other half in clinical settings. I had clinical rotations, which were basically like internships at a retirement home, in hospitals, homeless shelters, psych wards, elementary and high schools, actually. It gave us a taste of multiple nursing areas, including pediatric, labor and delivery, medical surgical, community health, and school nursing. When we weren't at clinicals, we spent hours in the classroom sitting through lectures, taking tests, and then spending more hours doing homework and reading textbooks at home. Needless to say, it was very grueling, but it went by really quickly and was worth it in the end. I don't know about you, but I've heard all kinds of misconceptions about nursing. For example, some people think all nurses do is take people from the waiting room back to the exam room and get vital signs before they see the doctor, or that nurses only do what the doctors tell them to do, they just give meds to patients, or that nursing is an easy way to make money, just to name a few. I was guilty of having many of those misconceptions myself until I began my own nursing journey. But the truth is, nursing is by no means a glamorous job, nor is it easy. So after I graduated nursing school in 2010, I took the board exams and then began working as a registered nurse soon after that. The route I took was inpatient nursing at a hospital, and fast forward to 3 years later, I'm still working as an inpatient float nurse at the UW Medical Center. It's definitely been a whirlwind of a journey, and I thought I was as prepared as I could have been, but I don't think you can fully prepare and know what to expect until you're really in the thick of it. So starting as a new nurse was another hurdle within itself. People ask me all the time what I do and what it's like to be a nurse, and my usual response is, I wipe butts and save lives. But fortunately for you, or maybe unfortunately, today I'll give you a little bit more detail as far as my life as a nurse. As a float nurse, there's not really such a thing as a typical day for me, only that I know I will be working a 12-hour shift. On any given day, I don't know where I'll be working until about 10 minutes before my shift starts. I basically go where I'm told to go, depending on which units have sick calls or are short-staffed for whatever reason. I often get floated to 2, sometimes 3 units in one day. Some of the units I float to include cardiac and oncology floors, the neonatal ICU, and the emergency room. I do work closely with doctors, but at my job it's more of a collaboration and not just taking orders. In fact, the doctors actually ask us nurses what orders to write because we do spend more time with the patients than they do. We take care of really sick patients at UW, oftentimes with rare diseases, and they come from all over the country, actually. I'll have anywhere from 2 to 5 patients. So, of course, the more patients I have, the trickier it gets to manage my time and my tasks. To give you a little glimpse of what my day looks like, these are just a few of the daily tasks I do. Do a physical assessment on each patient, give medications at scheduled times, often which are scheduled at the same times, but you still have to make sure they're not given late. Make sure the patients are getting adequate nutrition according to a specified diet, but also keep track of how much food and drink they've taken in each meal, plus how much they're eliminating through the bowel and bladder. Make sure that doctor's orders are correct and won't harm the patients, essentially prevent them from being killed. That blood work and labs are normal, or if they're abnormal, make sure they're addressed and treated appropriately. Offer patients hygiene, which may involve wiping a few butts. Make sure that they're exercising and not just spending time in bed all day. Be their emotional cheerleader. Stay calm when they're taking their frustrations out on me and yelling at me. And then document everything I do in their patient's charts so you don't get sued. While also trying to do it all with a smile on my face. Those are just some of the things we do daily. I could probably go on forever, but I'll spare you. But hopefully you can see that those misconceptions I listed earlier are way off. It's a hard job. It's emotionally, physically, and mentally draining. But I never get bored. I am always kept on my toes, and I'm always learning. I'm fortunate to have a career that allows me to be autonomous and continue growing. That's the beauty of nursing, not just in my position, but nursing in general. There's so many different types of nursing that you can do, and you're not just limited to hospital nursing. There's always room for advancement, such as becoming a nurse practitioner, which is similar to being a doctor in that you can have your own practice and write prescriptions. You can also do home health nursing, become a nursing educator, and many more. So if any of this interests you, I encourage you to stick with it, do the hard work, and remind yourself that it's all worth it. I suggest starting to volunteer at a hospital or maybe shadow a nurse for a day to see if it is what you want to do, because I believe that you have to want to do it. And if you do, I can almost guarantee that you'll love it. And maybe I'm biased, but it's probably one of the most rewarding things you can do. So if you have any questions or want advice on getting into nursing school and whatnot, please don't hesitate to ask me later in the breakout session. Thank you for listening.
To my current career today. It feels like it was just a few years ago that I was in your guys' shoes, but in actuality it was actually quite some time ago. But I still today at this time, actually a couple weeks ago, I attend events like this where I'm in your shoes, listening to seasoned professionals talk about their careers and what they do for a living, and hopefully I could still take some of what they've learned and apply it to my life, and hopefully you two can take away some things that you hear today and implement it in your journey ahead. So some of the topics I'll just cover, of course, the key is planning for college. A little bit about my journey and just a little bit about what I do now. So what do I want to be when I grow up? I think that is the big question that I'm sure all of you have been asked or think about countless times. And assuming that you guys are all here today because college is the next step or next big step in your life after high school. It's definitely an area or a time in your life that will help shape and mold the person that you are or you will become as an adult. So just a few things that some lessons that I learned actually having attended a few colleges and some tips that hopefully you guys can again implement yourself. When choosing college, choose the right environment for you. And I break it up into two hemispheres, academic and social. You definitely want to do your research, find colleges that tailor to your specific interests with the programs that meet some of the, goals you have for yourself in the future, and not just one, but possibly other professions as well. Socially, college will be will be the place where you spend most of your life, actually for the years ahead, as you enter your early adulthood. So find a place that's right for you, that embraces and encourages your growth as an adult, as a citizen here. It could be close to home, close to family. It may be better for you to actually go out of state, further away from home, if you feel that independence is something that you're looking for. But again, to find something that's right for you, because that's going to be an important part of your shaping into a professional and as a person. Don't worry if you don't have it all figured out. It's okay to not know what you want to do yet. And I think that's where college comes into play, is you get to actually experience different things, different classes, different types of programs that are available to you. And an interesting stat that I saw recently was that 80% of college students change their major at least once, and the average college student changes their major 3 times. So, it's great if you know what you want to do right now, but don't feel bad if a couple years later you think that what your major is not the right thing for you. It's okay to change. So with that being said, I really encourage you to explore and discover your passions. Take a bunch of entry-level classes in different areas if you have that opportunity to. Attend club meetings. If you like business, attend the business organization meetings. If you like engineering, do that. Do all of it. Do as much as you can, especially when you first enter college, because you get you get to dive in and really get full exposure into different things. Also, I encourage you to visit your career center. Do that early so they can get some advice, some guidance on what's actually available to you. There are a lot of free resources out there that you have to definitely take advantage of. And expect and embrace challenges. I know a big theme here is follow what you really want to do, as opposed to just what sounds good. So that might not necessarily be the easy route. You're going to hit some roadblocks along the way, but embrace those challenges. Don't take the easy way out. Stick through it. It'll make you a better person in the long run. And again, with that, take advantage of school resources. Tutoring. I had a tutor in college. I went to professor's office hours countless times. Study groups are a fun way to learn with your peers and help you actually just learn. But no matter what you do, where you go, really take advantage of the opportunity and make the best of it. It doesn't matter what you choose to do, what school you go to, it's what you put into it. And a little bit about my past. I went to school, Lakeside High School, just a few miles north of here. When applying for colleges, I knew I wanted to stay in the West Coast. So didn't want to go too far away from home, but kind of leave the state a little bit and experience something new. Pomona College was my actually number one choice. I knew that in college, or I knew in high school that I wanted to major in chemistry with the intent to go pre-med and become an orthopedic surgeon. What I actually did, I went to the University of San Francisco. I got waitlisted at Pomona College, didn't get in there. I applied to a lot of colleges in California. That was the place that I wanted to go. I was attracted to the beaches, the palm trees. And University of San Francisco I chose for a number of reasons. One, it just felt like a much bigger Seattle. I fell in love with the city, quite honestly. Going to San Francisco, I felt like it wouldn't be too much of a change as opposed to going to Los Angeles right away. Two, they had a very small student-to-teacher ratio. It's a small Jesuit university in the middle of the city, so that really attracted me to the school. And having the attention of the professors was definitely important to me. And then three, growing up, a lot of the doctors that I had, my pediatricians, some of the dentists, said that they had a lot of peers who attended the University of San Francisco and went to med school there. Of course, unfortunately, what I learned when I was already majoring in chemistry, pre-med, was that the University of San Francisco did not have a med school. And I chose the University of San Francisco partly because I thought it would give me a higher chance of entering the med school. But what my doctors were referring to was UCSF, University of California, San Francisco. So again, it's about making the best of your opportunity, right? So, which at the same time, I realized midway in my freshman year that maybe being a doctor wasn't good for me. It wasn't it wasn't something that I could see myself fully after taking some chemistry classes and realizing the path ahead. I wanted something that was more analytical, more number crunching, more problem solving based. And being a doctor, I felt just wasn't for me personally, especially since I can't stand the sight of blood and broken bones. It just sounded like the right thing, right? It sounded cool to be a doctor, and it wasn't for me. So I wanted to follow my passions. So I wanted to go into engineering. Another roadblock was that USF didn't have an engineering program. So here I was, okay, what do I do now? Should I just major in business? I don't know. I didn't know what to do. So I sought out my professors. Physics actually was the next best thing. So I met with the professors there. I decided to get my bachelor's in physics. And what I learned from talking to the professors was that USF actually had what they called a 3-2 dual degree program, where I attended USF for 3 years and would obtain a physics degree. And then I had the choice, if I maintained a certain GPA, of transferring either to Columbia University in New York or University of Southern California to pursue an engineering degree. So it actually worked out. And if I didn't actually seek out the advice of my professors, I wouldn't have learned about this program, because it was the first time that they actually did this program. And I was the first one to graduate in this program. So again, seeking out advice of your professors actually does help out big time. I chose USC after completing my physics courses. Again, I wanted to stay in the West Coast. I just didn't want to go too far away from home. Wanted to be a short flight away. And again, the change didn't seem too drastic from San Francisco to LA. So I chose USC. And because I already had a chemistry major, I took a lot of classes in chemistry, I just decided to put that to a chemical engineering degree, which also tailored to my interest, because having grown up in Seattle, Boeing was a big part, the aerospace industry was a big part of this geography. So Boeing, if I wanted to move back to San Francisco, biotech, biomedical is big there, and those are areas that I was interested in. If I wanted to stay in LA, aerospace is huge there as well. And USC is actually known for, their chemical engineering program is known for petroleum engineering. You have Chevron, Arco, Shell, all located in the LA area. So that's why I chose chemical engineering. I thought it presented a lot of opportunities upon graduation. It wasn't the easiest route, but again, I encourage you not to take what you think would be easy just to get your degree. Do what interests you. As a matter of fact, physics was the most challenging class I took in high school. But it was also the most fun and most interesting, so I wanted to take that because it would keep me interested. I later, a few years ago, went to the University of Washington, the Bothell campus, where they have a technology management program. And I'll touch on that a little bit later, and I received my MBA with a technology management focus. So the saying by Dwight Eisenhower, president, said that the plan is nothing, but planning is everything. So things may not go according to plan, but it's the preparation that you put into what you do that will help you better adjust when you hit that wall, as I did a number of times. So now that I'm almost grown up, what did I do after college? Right a few months after graduating from USC, I was hired by Boeing, which brought me back home, which I was really happy about. And there I was a materials and process engineer. I worked in a group, this inflatable antenna that when launched into space, with the use of temperature, would expand to the length of 4 football fields. And I helped, we didn't win this program, but I helped develop that technology to produce this this antenna there. I also worked on the Delta IV rocket, and you see it here, and I worked on the nose cone there that helped look for ways to try to reduce weight, because it's carrying a heavy payload there that they launch into space, so weight is really important, and that's what I worked on. I was trying to find ways of reducing weight of this rocket. Of course, I worked on the 787, which is a popular airplane here and big news in Washington. I worked on the composite structure, as well as the big one being lightning strike protection for the wing. Lightning strike is really important when you're having a composite aircraft, and it's more prone to lightning strike and damage if given the fact that it's not entirely metal aircraft. So I worked on that. I worked on, again, a lot of military programs that I can't talk about, but I can say the technology that I was exposed to every single day is just unbelievable, and it was just a wonderful experience to work on these things. The things you see in movies like Transformers and all those high-tech movies, that the technology they have in there is old. So to be exposed to these types of technologies every single day was very, very exciting. And a lot of the stuff I did for them, and that the acquiring of that new business was something that I was really interested in. So I decided to go back to school and get my MBA and develop that business skill. And which led me to my company today. It was a very difficult decision to leave Boeing because it's an absolutely amazing company, breakthrough technologies every single day that you work with. But again, an opportunity arose where I could develop this skill that I felt I lacked and that I wanted to improve. So making that jump then and there was, I had to seize that opportunity when I had the chance. So I got offered a job at Victrex upon graduation at the University of Washington, Bothell. Victrex is a supplier of what's called a polyether ether ketone, PET. It's a polymer or plastic that is probably the most metal-like material out there. And you may not know what it is, but it's everywhere. You have it in your cell phones, your headphones, your cars, and of course, having come from the aerospace industry, it was a good transition for me to become a business development manager for the aerospace business. So I manage, account management is a big part of my job, where I manage Boeing applications, the Boeing company, its tier suppliers, as well as some international companies like Airbus, Bombardier, and the new Comac Chinese aircraft. So my responsibility here, and what I do as a business development manager again, is looking for opportunities for us to implement PET into different components of an aircraft. For example, brackets, which are mostly metal, replacing those with a PET material would help save weight of an aircraft, which is huge because of fuel costs. Boeing is looking to up their production rates constantly, which is very difficult. So you want to make parts simpler to build and easier to install, and that's what we do with a lot of the parts that we help design. So I work closely with Boeing engineers in developing these applications, because plastic, though it's been around for a long time, there's still a lot to learn about it, and people are very hesitant to replace, say, metal with a plastic part, because you wouldn't think plastic would be that strong, but it is. So in my job, I also have the opportunity to develop our strategic approach in business. How are we going to, the bottom line is sales, right? So what are we going to do? What are we going to target in this application space to help increase the sales of the company? So I get the opportunity to help develop that strategic approach, that plan, and then I'm responsible and accountable for executing it. And working with customers like Boeing and their suppliers, making sure that we have the right products available to them. Do we have a product that meets their needs, or do we need to create and develop a new technology? And then that's what we do as well. And some role models growing up. I put this up here, famous failures, because again, it's putting effort into what you're passionate about. That's really important. You may not succeed every single time, and that's normal. I mean, expect failure. But the key is that you continue to strive for what your goals are, despite what anyone says, despite how you may have performed initially. Keep trying until you succeed, because that's the key, is to never give up, especially if it's something you truly believe in. And these are just some famous people, but quite honestly, it's the people that you're surrounded by in everyday life. It could be your teachers, your parents, a friend. These people are the true role models that you have easy access to, and they should be your inspiration. So just a few takeaways. Again, pursue your passions, not necessarily your strengths. If you're strong at something, it's easy for you to build upon that later on. But if you're really passionate, follow what your true interests are, because that will keep you motivated to actually become strong at it. Expect that things may not go according to plan. As the examples that I showed earlier, things won't always go according to plan, but as Russell Wilson says, the separation is in the preparation. Prepare, plan, and you'll always find a way to win. Take advantage of opportunities. Again, once you go to college, really dive into your career centers, all the organizations and clubs that you can join, and really make the most out of that opportunity. Because college is supposed to be one of the best years of your life, and again, take advantage of that. And then it brings us back to this question: what do I want to be when I grow up? I still ask myself this every day. I don't think this is my last job. I'm still looking for the next thing, and I think for most of us, our career will be more of a journey as opposed to a destination. So, as long as you keep continuing to build on your skills, I don't think there will be an end to what you really want to do. Any questions or?
I work at PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC for short, which is one of the big four accounting firms. I believe, but let me know if I'm wrong, but I believe this is what they tell us, but we're the largest professional service firm in the world. So that's what I work in. I work as a tax professional, a senior associate in the state and local tax group. So that's kind of my main focus. And kind of what I was brought here today to do is kind of share my experience and share about how I got to where I'm at today, and kind of the different obstacles and challenges I had to go through in order to get to where I am today. So real quick, by raising hands, who here considers themselves self-motivators? Who needs someone to motivate them, or who thinks they can motivate themselves? Yeah, quite a few of us. And I think even if you don't consider yourself to be a self-motivator, I think as you grow up, there are times when you need to motivate yourself, whether it's in a class or whether it's deciding your own career. Because there are a lot of times where you, and for me, I have some examples myself, but times where you kind of run through challenges and kind of fall down, but you have to be the one to pick yourself up, because there isn't always going to be somebody to pick you up for you. I went to O'Day High School, over in Seattle, all boys school. I know some people like to laugh when they say that, but I swear by that school also, and I'll send my kids there too. One thing about O'Day is, so it's a private school, and probably starting your sophomore year, they start telling you and start encouraging you to think about college, what you want to do with your career. So kind of a logical choice for me, growing up in the Catholic school education system, is to go to CLU. That's in Seattle. It's private, and it's pretty close to O'Day, actually. So I was kind of set on going there. But I applied to different schools. I applied to the University of Washington and also to USC down in Southern California. And I think probably I consider this in the 11th hour of making my college decision. Before I went to bed one night, I decided I should check out the University of Washington. So I had some friends that went there. It was really random, so I just called them up and asked them to take me on a tour. And by the end of that day, I decided I wanted to be a Husky. So it's probably one of the best decisions of my life, I think, was try to be a dog. But I think what was kind of a little controversial for me in making that decision is, I went to private school all my life. I was used to small school, used to small classes, and I chose to go to a huge school, where I'd be sitting in classes with like 500, 600 people in the room. But for me, I looked at it as an opportunity and a challenge, because I think a lot of people, when they heard about my decision, they kind of questioned it and thought that I'd have a difficult time there. But for me, I chose to motivate myself to maybe not prove people wrong, but prove to myself that I can overcome a challenge like that. So I went to the University of Washington, hearing all the rumors and all the stories of people going and kind of wasting their college years and kind of failing out the freshman year. And I made that decision to succeed. And I think going into college with that mindset, I was able to succeed. In terms of my career, it's funny because my dad is a CPA also, and a lot of people in this room I know because I kind of grew up with my dad being part of the CPA organization here for the Filipino Americans. But I kind of didn't want to go into the path. I was the type of person that didn't want to do what my dad did. So going into college, no offense. But going into college, I wanted to be an engineer. And I didn't really know what engineers did, but I knew it wasn't an accounting. So I went in at freshman year and I took an engineering class, and I did really well. But at the end of the class, I realized that I had no interest in doing anything related to engineering. So I found myself going to business school. So slowly, every quarter I kind of made the decision to evaluate where I was going in my college path. So after the first quarter of freshman year, I realized I didn't want to do engineering, so I kind of changed my path to go towards business. And when I got into business school, there were kind of different fields you can go into. There was marketing. I realized I wasn't a really good salesperson, so I kind of pushed that out of the way. I tried to do some econ, but I realized that was a little too complicated for me. And then I eventually, kind of the last choice, but something that I had to accept was the fact that I enjoyed my accounting classes. So it's funny, when you go through accounting and you talk to different accounting professionals, accounting usually isn't the first choice that they choose to be as a profession, but they somehow, in some way or another, fall into it. And so for me, I ended up falling back into accounting, and I love it. But from accounting, when you go to college, there are a few different paths there also. So as you kind of choose your career, you see that there are different fields, that there are different ways you can specialize, and even more you can specialize into after that. And so there's either auditing or there's tax. There's either the financial aspect of accounting or taxes. And they're two very different subjects within the same field. I kind of was leaning towards taxes because that's what my dad did. The one thing is I took my first tax class and it was super hard. So tax is really law-based. There are tax lawyers, right? LLMs, and then there are tax accountants too. And a lot of what we do is based off of tax law. So it's reading laws, reading statutes, interpreting laws and regulations. It's a lot different than your debits and credits that you learn about in your accounting classes. So I thought that was really interesting and it was challenging. So I took my first tax class, I had my first midterm, and I totally failed it, right? Maybe it was my fault for not preparing for the type of style of test that they had, but totally failed it. But for me, that was motivation for me because I thought the class was really interesting and I was really engaged in the class. And I thought I just did bad. So I worked extra hard and I ended up, acing the final and getting a really good GPA to end the quarter. So I think kind of challenges like that, I think if you don't have that sort of self-motivation, then it may be easy for you to just quit. But I think, whenever you figure out what your right career is, as you go along through the end of high school and college, when you realize what you want to do and what you're called to do, then don't let certain things like certain failures get in the way. Instead, help it serve as a source of motivation to overcome it. Because when you overcome challenges like that, I think for me, it's even more rewarding in the end. So I decided to be a tax professional. I went through recruiting. You'll find that when you go to college and you decide your career, that different companies go in and try to recruit for you. recruit you. So you have to go through the interview process, and I actually interviewed with all the big four here in Seattle, plus Los Angeles is another, I guess, the big five here in Seattle, and I ended up getting a lot of offers, and at that point, choosing whichever firm that I wanted to be at. So now I'm at PricewaterhouseCoopers. I'm a senior associate. Been there for 4 years, and it's great. One thing about myself is I'm the type of person that likes to serve people. I was really involved just in school, helping people, and also just in church, church communities, serving and helping others, and that's kind of been what I'm all about, kind of what my background is. And so accounting and tax is seems weird, but it all connects for me, because in what my role is now as a tax professional is I'm actually a tax consultant. And so I consult different companies. I work with a lot of corporate clients, just basically ways to help them not pay as much money to the government legally, right? Legally, it's all legal. But that's kind of what my background was, and who I really was. Is me wanting to consult, help people. So consulting really kind of reinforced my career path, because I like to help people, I like to help different companies. So there are a lot of benefits to the accounting profession. It's definitely a stable industry. You're always going to want, or everybody's going to need accountants. We're always going to have to pay tax. Never going to get away from doing that. And so it's really steady. There are some minuses to the profession. We work a lot, but there's still a lot of balance in my life. And the good thing about my firm is that they really try to push flexibility and work-life balance. So, kind of lesson from what I shared with you today is that you never really set your career. Especially going through college, as Earl talked about earlier, 80% of the kids who go to college change their major. So it's never too late to change. Just figure out what you're really called to do, and figure out what kind of feeds your drive and what motivates you, and use that to your advantage. There's an opportunity for all of us to succeed out there, and I think it's up to us just to get ourselves motivated to put our best foot forward as much as we can, and really work hard, and just use opportunities out there to the best of your advantage. So, if you have any questions, I'll be available after. Thanks.
Good morning. Again, I just want to take this opportunity to go and thank you guys for spending your time over here this early morning Saturday, and hopefully you guys are getting a lot of valuable information from our speakers. And again, I just want to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Elmo Akasha. I am an electrical engineer, and I work for a company here in downtown Seattle called Tetra. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but in the electrical engineering business, there are many facets or trades, if you will, that you can do as an electrical engineer. You can be focusing on maybe doing electronics, designing microchips, things that you see on your cell phones, building computers. You can also be an electrical engineer that can focus on designing high voltage system, the Grand Coulee Dam, or the utility companies, right? So the electrical engineering business that I'm into focuses on designing, delivering power to building construction. So, and my typical responsibility in my trade is working with architects who actually are the ones that will put together a floor plan, put the walls, the doors, and the building design itself. And then I'll work with other design team members, which could be a mechanical engineer, a structural engineer. These are the folks that take care of and make sure that the building stands up, it doesn't fall down, right? And then the mechanical engineer will take care of the plumbing, the air conditioning, and so I support the power for those systems. I design the lighting that you guys see over in this room right now is part of what I do. and want to make sure that I provide the power design and the power that's going in the building is sufficient for what the building needs. Most of the focus of my work is actually on commercial buildings, meaning we do a lot of high-rise offices. Right now we're working on a lot of military projects, so we are involved in, I'm involved on doing work in designing barracks, dormitories, headquarters for the military. So being in that business, I had an opportunity to work in Japan, in Djibouti, Africa, and also different places in the U.S. So, we start working with a blank piece of paper, and then coordinating with our design team, and then go ahead and put together a design with our drawings, with our specifications, and then bring that to the contractor that actually uses those information as their material, as their guide map, to actually go and build this thing that we have in paper and build it in real life. So there's collaboration from the very beginning, not only with the engineering design team and the architects, but also with the contractors that will actually put that into construction. Okay. I attended high school in Manila, Philippines, and when I was there at a very young age, I was already focusing on trying to figure out what am I going to do for in college. And I think part of it is a little bit different growing up here in the U.S. As opposed to growing up in the Philippines. There's not a lot of jobs available. There's so many people that are graduating and getting a career in college, but the job is scarce. There's just not enough of it available for people that are getting their degree. And so for us going to high school at that time, we have to be prepared and make sure that we figure out what we need to do, because it's a very competitive market out there. So I wasn't very good in, I had my favorite subjects that kind of led me to go into engineering. I liked, my interest in science was there, social studies. But man, I never liked math. It's something that I struggled with. But even though math wasn't one of my favorite subjects, and I recognized then that it's something that I will struggle with, it didn't stop me from actually going and say, go ahead and pursue an engineering career in college. Then I went for 2 years in the Philippines for college in civil engineering at first. And then we migrated here in the U.S. After that, and then for a little while I had to stay away from school and go to work and help my family to go and adjust to a new life here in the U.S. During that time, I had an opportunity to actually work with a mechanical and electrical consulting engineering firm here in Seattle. I was basically doing clerical work for them. I was delivering drawings. I was making blueprints for the engineers at that time. And through hands-on training, I was able to go in and learn basic design skills and the engineering trade in the business through my work at that time. And because of that, I decided that I want to go and pursue an electrical engineering degree. So I went back to school. I didn't go back to school the natural way, from high school and straight after college. I was married already at that time and had 2 young kids. And so I went to school full-time in the evening and actually worked full-time during the day. I would not recommend that for you guys. Don't do it that way. Because going to school is hard as it is. And so being able to go and do and make sure that you worry about financial responsibility for your family and degree, it's not a good combination to do. So if you can avoid it, don't do it. So don't do it that way. So I kind of did that for a few years, and then eventually got my degree in electrical engineering. And I took the board exam. In order to become a licensed professional engineer, not just in the state of Washington, but also in different states, you need to go and pass the board exam. Unlike for lawyers, you got to go and get the bar exams as well. So it was an 8-hour test for me, when I took it, and fortunately I passed, and so now I'm a licensed professional engineer here in the state of Washington. And in the business that I'm in as a consulting engineer, it's always almost a requirement, a must to go and have your professional engineering license if you want to go and engage in the work that I do. My role models are my parents. My dad, who passed away in 2005, when we came here, he had to go and work 3 jobs at a time just to make sure that we make ends meet. And so, he didn't really say it in words, but I know in the way he took care of us and dealt with our migration here in the U.S. Hard work always pays off, and there's always going to be struggles and hard work that you're going to go and face. But if you focus on it and you put your goal and your mind into achieving that goal, you should be able to go and chances are be able to go and achieve that goal. How many times have you guys heard, if you're not good in math, you're not good in science, maybe engineering is not for you. Sometimes that's a mentality that's kind of a general mentality of people that we think about. There's an element of truth sometimes in that philosophy, but it's not always the general rule. Personally, like I said, I wasn't very good in math when I was in high school, but I think knowing the fact that I wasn't very good at it, I knew what to focus into when I went to engineering in college. I knew that I had to work hard on that particular weakness so that I can go and achieve it and get better. So don't let that stop you guys. If somebody tells you that you're not good at that, it's not a deal breaker. You need to go and if your interest is getting into engineering, give it a try. Some of the things that I found helpful for me during college is being able to go and work with other students. Good mentorship is obviously always a plus. Study programs, and you got to have the right study habits. If anybody tells you that going to college is a cakewalk, they're lying. It's hard as it is, and it's hard, period. And so that's why not everybody does it, but you got to go in and do the work, and it's not easy. And so if it's hard, it doesn't mean that it's not for you. It's always going to be hard, but with the right help, with the right motivation and the right support, you should be able to go in and fulfill that dream. As far as the positives, I guess, of being an electrical engineer, historically and even up to this point, there's a lot of demand for electrical engineering work. We're having a tough time trying to go and get electrical engineers for the things that we need for our company. And so right out of college, there's always that big possibility that you can get a job right away. The salary for electrical engineers that just got out of college are pretty good as well. I have a salary survey that I got from my HR. I forgot to bring it with me, but if you guys are interested, I can go and talk to you guys about it later on. Just kind of give you guys an idea on some of the average salary for an electrical engineer that just graduated from college and going into the job market. Also, there's a lot of intangible benefits also for being an electrical engineer. I have my colleague over here, Laura, who belongs to Engineers Without Borders. So you can actually go and volunteer your time to help some of the third world countries that may need help in building homes and things like that. Some of the work that I do, I find very helpful and satisfying to go and help design and build, say, a new wing for a hospital or maybe new schools. And although that's not the line of work that I do anymore, in the past I did that one, and I found it very satisfying to be able to say, hey, I contributed on building that new high school over there, or that new hospital, or that new community center. So those are the things that may not have a tangible value, but it is something that you can be proud of if you can say that you contributed in making that as a community service for your area. Anyway, that's all I have to share this morning. And if you have any questions later on, I'll be available for that as well.
The next in our program, we're going to hear from the current student at the University of Washington. In our program, we have President of the Filipino American Students Association listed, but unfortunately, you couldn't come in today. So we have this trio partner to fill in for us, and thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
She grew up in our group, so you knew her when she was like
Thank you. So, yes, unfortunately, something came up for Jermaine, so she wasn't able to make it today. But I am happy to be here. I am the current secretary for the Filipino American Student Association, so I'm happy to speak with you all. A little bit of background on what I've experienced. I grew up in Seattle. I've always wanted to be a Husky at heart, so I'm very happy to be there now as a junior, majoring in communications and English with a minor in music. And as I mentioned, I grew up here in Seattle. I went to the Holy Names Academy, which was an all-girls private school of about 500, 600 students. So very tiny school, and going into a huge university with like 27,000 undergraduates, it was a little scary. But what's great about big universities is that you can make it smaller by getting involved with other organizations. And so that's why I really found a home with Faacpa. And so if you don't know what Golla is, it is an organization, student-run, that celebrates Filipino culture and raises awareness of issues and really gets people involved. Even if you're not Filipino-American, like anyone can join. And so we also do some volunteer opportunities. We work at the football games doing dog sleds. And we also do Food Lifeline. Whatever events come up, we try to get involved with our community as much as we can. We also participate in Kisasanayan over the summer as well. And we also have exhibits and workshops. This month, do you guys know what month this is? Yes, that's exactly. Filipino American National History Month. So we will be hosting a bunch of workshops for people to learn about our culture and how it's progressed through the years, especially here in Seattle. And so we also work closely with the FANS, the Filipino American National Historical Society, as well. So a lot of fun stuff, but aside from all the cultural aspects, we also have a bunch of fun events as well. We have formals, we have interactions with other Northwest Faacpa alliances in Portland, at Wazoo, at Western. So we get to really share our culture with many different people. Another thing that we do, we are part of a mentoring program called Project Family. So we get to work with high school students, especially during those transitions in high school and applying for colleges. So if you're interested in any of that, I can help answer some of those questions. And we have a dance troupe as well. We have a hip-hop dance troupe and a cultural dance troupe. So if you're interested in any of that, let me know. So, aside from Faacpa, very wonderful organization, but I'm also involved in the University Gospel Choir and have done a couple plays here and there. So, just getting involved, finding what you're passionate about, and delving in, exploring things. It's really great to do that in college, especially during your freshman year. I was part of the Chi Omega sorority, and that allowed me to live on campus and really get to meet a bunch of people. I lived with 100 girls, and so it was kind of crazy, but it was very exciting, and that was great because I always had people to walk with the class, and I had people to study with and hold me accountable for all my work. And also, there's a Polynesian Student Alliance that holds Poly Day in the spring, so you get to perform and learn about what they've been through the years. So yeah, those are just some of the things I'm involved in. I want to keep it short and sweet because I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys want to hear from us? So those are the things that I'm involved in. Let me know if you have any questions concerning that.
Good morning. My name is Nanette Villanueva, and I'm happy to be a part of this session called All Day Session, and also to have the question and answer. But before anything else, I would like to request you to give our speakers a big hand. We really appreciate your presence today. So now let's get into the big Q&A. This is our chance. This is your chance to grab the limelight. So who would like to ask the first questions first? Bear in mind, this question could be a big determining factor in making your decision for your career and for your life. But I didn't want to scare you. So, and who knows, you might get a big raffle ticket, big prize today if you ask the first question. But we'll find out about that later. So, any volunteers? Do you want me to start? Oh, here it is.
Yes. I'm sorry I was late for this because I had to go to a seminars early this morning. So anyway, my first question, and this will be addressed to all of you. What is the role of faith in your achievement?
Any volunteers for this? Okay. Thanks, Romeo.
You know, that's something that nobody really asks. I truly believe that each individual has their own faith and desire to fill that with a career. Now, we mentioned that from the very beginning, when I started out as a prosecutor, faith did not have the relevancy to me at that point. I was serving the government, my own personal views, my personal religious beliefs should not have had an interplay in that. In my overall career, though, that's different. Because I believe in my own religion that I am going to serve God by helping people. So that was an important aspect which I did not describe in my presentation. But for me, I think faith is probably the strongest motivating factor in my life. I'm a family man. I have a 27-month daughter. I'm been married for 12 years. And there are ups and downs in a career, especially in an uncertain economy. You know, it's, I'll share this only with you guys. Don't tell anybody else. And it's not to brag, but I initially, when I first started out, I would work till 11 p.m. at night as a prosecutor. I did have weekends. I'd have trials every morning. My wife was very supportive. We always went to church on Sunday, regardless of how busy I was. I always had time for God, number one. Number two is when the economy shifted. I went from working for the government with a fixed salary to a private law firm in Bellevue. And the shift was to represent individuals with DUIs. And I kid you not, it was a different lifestyle because I was living in Bellevue in a skyrise tower. I had concierge and everything. And I actually, put a huge deposit to buy a Porsche to be built in Europe. And then the bubble burst. The bubble burst in the economy and everything came down. Everybody was struggling. People were losing their houses. And it felt right to actually act as if nothing was wrong. Everything was wrong with the country. I believed in God. And I said, we get past this. Because as long as you have faith, you can actually pursue and make your career work to support your family, to support yourself, to help others, and to retain your faith is the most important thing I believe a person should do. So there are people who change careers. I know that my wife was one of them. And I believe that as long as you have your faith, as long as you have your support, then you can make it through any problem. So here we are, 2013. That was 2000. Who was president back then? President Bush. So 2007. Things are better than they were at that time. I'm not driving a Porsche, but I'd say that the country is recovering. I recovered from that. I knew it was important. It's not materialism, because once you wash away money, once you wash away material things, you're left standing with your character. You're standing with your family. You're standing in faith with your God. So that's what I'd say is that's how faith plays in my life.
Thank you.
Move on. And also as a reminder, this is a general question and answer. And later, as time permits, we'll have a Q&A for each table depending on your points of interest. so we can gather as a CPA, as engineers, or whatever in a specific table. Also, I would like to remind everyone that we have a short time period, so please limit your answers to 2 minutes or so. Okay, so,
Can I possibly answer that question as well? All right, so as many of you may know, but some of you may not know, in 2006, my oldest brother was killed in the line of duty. And so during that time, my faith just kind of flew out the window for a bit. I stopped singing as much. I wasn't as motivated in swimming, and things were getting rough at school. But during that sorrowful process, I finally one day thought to myself, why am I still moping around about this? I can't let this stop my life. And so I started going to church again. I started finding God spiritually. And you know what? That woman may have taken my brother's life, but she can't take mine. So I turned that negative energy around and I turned it into something positive. And I found the Concerns of Police Survivors, which is the organization I work with now, and I get to help other families who are experiencing the same things that I've been through. So being able to help others and find a passion in helping them get through that coping process is something that's really helped me become the person I am today. So,
thank you. So we move on. Okay, any questions? Okay, I'll give you mine. Is being a minority a positive or a negative factor in your career choices?
I think it's positive. Kind of in the firm I'm at now, all the partners are white males, and they have some white females. They have some minorities there, but it's an issue that a lot of corporations are tackling, and they're asking the question of why people of an ethnic background aren't in the top positions. And my firm actually sent me to sort of a coaching and mentoring national training within our firm. And so it's out there, but I think the main message is to treat it as positive because you're unique and people like what you can bring to the table because you have a diverse and unique perspective on things. So if you are finding yourself thinking that there's some sort of barrier, try to look past that and just I would say be aware of it and use it to your advantage.
For me, being a minority, especially in education, it was really tough for me in the beginning because my friends would say, "Oh, you can get a job here because you're brown." And I'm like, I don't care if I'm purple, orange, green, or whatever. I want them to see my resume, my character, my experience. So I kind of just let it. I didn't really want to emphasize that until I got into education. I realized that our way of seeing the world is a lot different than a lot of the traditional American viewpoints. And I was actually really shocked. I'm like, you guys, some of the family traditions that we have, or some of the, how we as, I'm saying we as Filipinos, or actually anyone who is a minority, in a lot of situations, family absolutely comes first. And in some certain cultures, other things may trump that, which was, it's weird for us to think about that. So when I had a student that was gone for 5 days because mom, and this is actually a true story, mom during dad during Thanksgiving, their door was actually broken into, and the dad was taken by deportation back to Mexico. And the oldest daughter and her mom were left freaking out, scared, and for 5 days the oldest daughter stayed home to take care of their kids. And to me, I understood that. I'm like, geez, what a traumatic experience. Thanksgiving dinner, all of a sudden, these people come and take away your dad and your uncle, and you have to take care of everything else. But it's interesting the sort of comments that I heard from other people, like, how can they just miss school like that? They're not sick. How can they just not be here? And I'm like, look, are you serious right now? Their family just, a week of education, we can get that, but they need to do that, their family. They're crying right now. They're really hurt. They need to just be with their family. And those are certain things, those small things. But this is just an example of we need to. In the corporate world, but also in education, or just in life in general. But the more viewpoints that we have in a situation, the more people we're going to serve, and the more people we're going to feel comfortable with. And I can't tell you how many times, whenever I'm in a all-principal meeting, and there's people in the meeting are being paid tons of money to make big decisions with tax dollars, where I have to say I don't agree, because that's not in this culture, in our community, family comes first. And so that's why when we have open houses, we feed our families. We have childcare at our open house. Our music concerts, when we have them, there's childcare. Because they have young brothers and sisters. And in other schools, they don't have that in their focus. So it's definitely, at first it was really embarrassing. I was like, I don't want to be on the brown guy in school, but I actually now look at it as a big advantage. And I think we definitely need more minorities for the viewpoints, for the representation, and plus just role models. When you have kids that are like, I don't see any of my family members in big positions. All of a sudden they see oh my gosh, why is he's not the janitor over here? He's in charge of my teachers? Oh my gosh. Okay, cool. I want to be, we need people to represent. So, anyway, thank you.
I grew up in predominantly white schools, and one of the few Asians. And there's that model minority stereotype, and I'm the kind of person that just wants to break stereotypes. I'm not a nurse because I'm Filipino. I am a nurse because I want to help people. And the fact that I am a minority as a woman, as an Asian, I use that to drive my empathy, because I have seen what it's like to have parents from another country and to also be an American. And by being able to see different perspectives, that helps me in my career, even though along the way it's been a struggle, despite the fact that on the surface it looks like I've had a privileged childhood, but I have seen things, and everyone has their own background, and to know that everyone has their own story helps me help others, I guess. So it's been a positive for me. Thank you.
I need to just, what I like is kind of breaking that mold, breaking people's expectations of what a female attorney should be. And also by more people getting exposed to a brown female attorney, or just minorities in certain positions, I think it'll make people want to maybe be an attorney if they didn't think it was possible, or just it'll help people be more accepting of it. So, I have a feeling I'll have to deal with that for a while, but it's reality. So it's great to have different perspectives also as a minority, but it's also something you need to be ready for, I think. Any questions? You have a question? Okay. Here you go. You got Ellen. Thank you.
Thank you, Nanette. I think my question is, does public service have a role in your profession or discipline?
Public service is actually a very important aspect of being a lawyer. As you can see here, we have in attendance, in addition to myself, Ms. Jordan Gonzalez, Charlene Angeles, and Mina Castillo. We actually are members of a minority bar association. And the greatest aspect of being a lawyer in our profession is it's not just the 9-to-5 aspect of serving the client. We actually serve the community. I myself, as well as Ms. Castillo, had served, and she's currently serving on the Filipino community of Seattle. And myself and Ms. Gonzalez, she's president-elect of the organization, I'm the current president. We serve because we believe in 4 aspects. One of the most important aspects is advocacy. And community needs the support of certain professions. For instance, CPAs have done a great job of hosting this event here today, because when I was this age, I didn't have this opportunity to have panels present a perspective that I would get. As lawyers as well, when we host certain booths at certain functions such as NW FASA, which is the Northwest Philippine American Student Association. We also have booths at Vista Sanaya. We extend the community more information about what our career is. On a side note, many of us volunteer also for legal clinics, and that is pro bono. Awareness can serve and is commended. I know that I don't want to inflate Ms. Castillo, but she receives pro bono recognition awards from the bar because of all the hard work that she dedicates to the community. I think when you are when it comes down to it, we all have fields that are different, but they all make our community better. And at the very grassroots level, after 5 o'clock, if you ever have time, it's kind of hard when you have family, but I've learned to integrate that as well. If you ever have time, always volunteer your services, regardless of whatever field it is, because it will improve your local community and it will improve the standard of living for other people, not just for yourself, always other people. So that's
So in the type of work that I do as an engineer involved with building, I think that public service is one of the aspects that we need to, that we focus on, because we want to make sure not just make the building beautiful or make it functional, but the most important aspect that we focus on is make sure that the construction is safe. And because after all, we're trying to go and build buildings for soldiers, for hospitals, for people that will be using these facilities, and safety is the number one thing that we want to always interject in our design element. So we want to make sure that we follow codes, regulations, and so there's no number crunching or anything like that related to it, but that's half of the battle that we need to go and make sure that we implement when we provide all these services for these projects that we work on.
Here's another question for you. Looking back, what resources do you wish you had in high school that would have been helpful in deciding what course to study in college? Did everyone get that? No, say it again. Looking back, what resources do you wish you had in high school that would have been helpful in deciding what course to study in college or what career to pursue in college?
For me, I wish looking back, that I took a more proactive approach. Kind of what you guys are doing now in attending events like this. It doesn't seem like a big deal listening to people talk about what they do for a living, but it actually does. And as I mentioned during my presentation, I still do that today. I go to a lot of talks of people talking about their careers, what they want to do. Because we're all still trying to figure out what we want to be. And I think getting other people's perspectives can help in some way. It may not help, hopefully what you hear today, you can take something away and apply it in your life. But what I encourage and what I wish I did back when I was your age was attend events like this, really seize every opportunity, because every opportunity leads to the next. And the more perspectives you have, the better prepared you are in the long run. So again, attending events like this and really just learning from other people and their experiences can help you along the way as well.
I'll keep this short. My name's Ryan. I think the biggest thing that looking back would be to do more job shadowing. Because I think we all hear you need to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, or whatever sort of cool tagline or profession that your parents or just like what society thinks that you should be doing. But if you go, this happened for me when I job shadowed and I saw that they worked in the cubicle all day. And there's nothing wrong with that. And they were kind of in their own office doing their own thing for hours on end. I was kind of that ADD kid. It's like, well, what are they doing over there? Or what over there? Yeah, let's go here. And like, no, you don't do that over here. You just sit down and just do this. And I was like, this feels not me. I couldn't do this. So sometimes you think you know what you want to do, and then you actually see what people in that career do, and you're like, definitely not. So if I were to suggest, find people that you could just maybe for an afternoon just shadow them, or maybe even a full day, just job shadow and see if it's something that you might enjoy.
Yeah, to go along with that, I went to Williams Academy, like I said, and occasionally we would have some college representatives come in and talk about, where you can apply, but it was tailored specifically to a certain field. So mostly it would just be like, you are interested in this, you would just go to this classroom, hear about that. But you should definitely look into other things that you wouldn't even imagine. Like, you could expand your interest just by hearing about other things. So when they come into your school and talk about what they do, even if it's not something you would initially jump on because you're really interested in it, still see what they have to say and start networking now. Like, that's something I wish I knew. I didn't, approach speakers afterwards and find out as much information as I could, but you can do that now, and it will help you so much in the future. Get their contact info, ask them questions, what they do, see if you can job shadow them. Right now, I'm currently shadowing and interning at King 5 News and seeing what it's like being a reporter and a producer. So, get involved, be proactive, and, just don't be afraid to ask questions.
More questions? Here's another one. Did I miss one? Oh, sorry.
Were you guys all financially secure going into college, or was there struggles?
Good.
Did you get that? Were you guys all financially secure when you went to college, or did you have a financial struggle?
So I was lucky to have parents that did plan for my college, but I did have scholarships going into UW. But we still took loans out. And then when I graduated from UW, I was cut off. When I went to nursing school, I had to take out loans that paid for everything, essentially. So I'm still paying that off, and will be for many more years. So the answer is no.
Yeah, so I was actually, I was pretty blessed. I think my parents were, we may not be living rich, but they were willing to invest in my education. So I took out loans. The good thing was that I was blessed to have an internship, PricewaterhouseCoopers, for 9 months, so I was able to pay for half my master's program. So there are opportunities, even though I didn't have I was totally secure financially, have loans that still paying off now, but we'll hopefully be able to pay off. That's the plan, at least.
Okay. So I was fortunate also. My parents helped me pay for college. But when my oldest brother joined, he went to graduate school, Things got a little tight. So that's when I was a participant in the Seafair Scholarship Program for Women. And so what this program does is it helps young individuals, you have to be at least 18, it helps them hone in on their public speaking skills. It emphasizes their academic achievement and really recognizes them for their community involvement. And so that really helped me to grow professionally as well, and that's partially why I'm here today. And it also gives you a scholarship. That's what it is, it's a scholarship program. It's not a beauty pageant. And so that's what's really great about it. And you also get paired up with a mentor to help you develop your resume and everything. So if you're interested in that at all, please come talk to me after, and I'd love to speak with you about it, because it's a really great program, and you get to participate in all the Seafair events throughout the summer. So it's also really fun.
So to answer that question, no, I wasn't financially, stable when I went to college. Just like what I shared a while ago, when I went here, I was already married with 2 kids. And so that was even harder to actually go in and pay for your own school, while at the same time you're trying to support a family. And there were 10 kids in our family, to begin with, and so unfortunately, what happens is that after we all graduate from high school, we kind of need to go and kind of be more independent and try to go and figure out how we were going to go to get to college, and so that's what happened to me, is that I delayed school until I got married, and then when I was making a living, even though I was working full time, I had to go in and get loans and get some credit cards, charges to go ahead and pay for my school. But there's some time during in my study that I was able to go and get partial scholarships and things like that. So don't let that stop you, the financial issue, because it's going to come. But at the end of the day, when you finish the degree and you get that job that you always wanted to get, it will pay off. It takes time, but it will pay off eventually. My wife told me to go and there was one point in time my wife told me I stopped school because it's just too much. And thank goodness I didn't listen to her, and she was actually thankful, not talking about it, and saying that I'm glad you didn't listen to me about it and to stop. So, anyway, that's all.
By the way, I forgot. Can you tell us your name, introduce yourself, then ask the question? If you're too embarrassed, that's okay. Go ahead.
I'm Diane Rose. I'm from Cleveland. Can you stand up?
Yeah, so they can all hear.
I'm from Cleveland High School. My name is Diane Rose, and I'd like to actually direct this question to the electrical engineer. And I was going to ask, what would you advise to bilingual students to improve their communication skills? Because you know how coming from different places and not really speaking English that well, like, what would you advise them to get out there and open up to everybody? Like, they're struggling. Like, not me, but, in general.
I think that applies to all the different careers and the lines that we take, since we're all minorities and our initial language is Filipino. So, do we have... Okay, the question is...
Well, first of all, I struggle in communication as well, and so you can say it's not my first language. But I think what helped me is basically get good at what you do, get to know, gain more experience, and as you get more confident on the career that you're doing, then you can easily go and be able to talk about it a little bit more, a little better. And I think practice makes perfect. So, if you can take the opportunity to go and do a little bit more public speaking and things like that, it doesn't have to be necessarily related to your career. It could be, speaking at your church or speaking in small groups. I think that would help you actually go get better in your communication skills. And hanging out with professionals and listening to them and be able to go and pick up, how they present themselves and how they talk in a business sense, maybe in a casual sense, and be able to go and combine those kind of communication skills, and so that you can go and figure out, the appropriate way and when to say it and how to say it and all that. So the bottom line is you just need to go and just keep practicing on it and get more involved in different situations, different events, different opportunities to go and speak and communicate to others. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Emma. Okay.
Briefly, they say that we need mentors, and there's also saying that sometimes it's who you know and not necessarily what you know. And so I want to ask you, because I've gone through law and living and all of that stuff, I've always looked for mentors. And so who do you believe, other than your parents really, because they're always going to be there for you, but who do you believe is your mentor? And very briefly, of course, and why? And why is it so important to have a mentor to from now in your high school until, you're done with your profession?
Okay, any takers? Let's hear from the lawyers. And let's hear from a lady. How's that? There you go.
So actually for me, and I know Mimi, my dad is one of my mentors, and he will be my mentor for life, but I'm listening to an audiobook. It's called Lean In, and it's by Sheryl Sandberg. She's the COO of Facebook, and I highly recommend it to everyone, but there is a chapter on mentors. And I like what she says is that a lot of people have this misconception that you find someone and you just try and create a mentorship relationship out of nothing, whereas it's more so connecting with someone and maybe developing a friendship, or also going to them with directed questions, showing you've done your research, asking them specific questions. But I guess for me, not only my dad, but my old boss at my last job, I see my mentors, or I seek people who they're doing what I want to do and how I want to do it. For example, it's having a family, but also being really successful, being a good leader. Just find someone, I guess, I would say, who you identify with or who you want to strive to be or you really look up to. And, mentorship, it's not just, you can just create it. So I would just try and foster those relationships. And it is a lot of who you know. I want to add one more thing. I'm sorry I digress, but I want to go back to kind of the minority issue, the positives and negatives of being a minority, and also financial opportunities. So if you guys have opportunities and it's under the realm of a diversity scholarship, I had a diversity scholarship to work for a law firm in Seattle, and I know some people said, oh, she only got that job because she's a minority. Well, you know what? That might have helped, but that got my foot in the door. Another thing, too, I went to Rice University for undergrad, where they're very known for academics, and I went there on a tennis scholarship. So again, people would say, oh, she just got in there for tennis. But when I got there, I realized I was just as smart as a lot of those people. So to seize those opportunities that get you in the door. So, sorry, I'm like the younger stuff.
Okay, we have about 15 minutes, so I pose this question to you. We do have an option to have a breakout session according to professional interest. The other one is to continue this question and answer session. What would you like?
Individual sessions.
Oh, just continue this question and answer? Oh, break out into professional interest? Okay, let's entertain one more question and then we will break out into professional interest.
Hi, I'm Grace. I go to Roosevelt High School. I've always had this vision of being a dermatologist when I grew up, and I know they have to major in biochem or biology, and I'm not very good at that, so I was wondering if any of you changed your majors in college or did it change?
Did we get that?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you rephrase the question for the benefit of those that didn't hear very well? Can you ask me again?
Sorry. I just asked if any of them changed their majors in college or if they changed their mind in high school about what they wanted to do.
Thank you. Yeah.
So yeah, I mentioned earlier that I majored in chemistry, wanted to go into pre-med, become an orthopedic surgeon, going into college. But I ended up becoming an engineer because I was really interested in, like I said, problem solving, creating things, building things, and problem solving. And I wouldn't say that I was actually good at it either. I struggled in physics in high school and even in college, and had to get a tutor to actually get my grades and did very well. But not until that point did I seek out help. So I wouldn't say that I'm an expert at mathematics, calculus, or anything like that. But you really utilizing the resources that are available to you. If you're really interested in becoming a dermatologist, I'd say just do it. You're going to have challenges, but again, seek out those who have taken that path, get their advice, and as far as what you have to study in school, biology, for med school, I don't think you have to, for many people, you don't have to study, take biology to become a doctor. I know people who took history, became a doctor, became a lawyer. They took engineering, became a doctor, took arts. Your undergrad doesn't really matter in terms of, I guess, equating to the profession you're going to be in. So with that, I mean, follow your interests. You're going to need to take science classes, biology classes. If you struggle at that, then find help. And there's nothing wrong with tutoring and getting a tutor because there's a misconception that if you have a tutor, you're done or whatever. But I had a tutor, and then I ended up becoming a rocket scientist. So. And it wasn't any good in math. So it all works out.
So for your choice, we are going to break out into professional interests, and on that side we have the tables labeled, so you're welcome to choose what you want. So let's all stand up and go to the respective tables of your choice. And also the professionals, of course, will be answering specific questions. Thank you.